This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good seeing you as well too.
All right, so free agency, lots going on. What'd you think of
Yes.
free agency just generally overall so far?
Oh, it's always so slow.
Yeah, it's been a slow trickle so far, and it seems like the wide receiver market is not the hot market this year. There's a lot of big names that are not signing for big money.
Yeah, it's interesting with wide receiver. I'm not sure what's devaluing that position. I don't know if it's just because of the salary cap and having like one player that can do the job of what multiple players could do needs to earn so much money. I don't know. It's just interesting. Like there seems to be a lot of people that are 6'4" that can snag a ball, or 6'4" that can at least get some separation. And you know, and then maybe like maybe the value of that position
I
is
think
not.
that's what it is. There's a lot of guys that can do that job, sort of close to the same level.
Like the
And
skill level is it's a little bit different than a running back that's running, through the tackles, right? Because those guys are, especially if they can gain 3 yards, those guys are harder to find.
yeah, those guys, I mean, that's the most coveted position to find a great player at in fantasy football. And you really only have each year 4 or 5 that stand out. And then you have a lot of guys that are fairly good. And there's a big glut in the middle there. Um, Finding an outstanding person at the running back position, I guess, is harder. And for the receivers, lots of guys are pretty good. It seems like.
Well, yeah, especially when you're in a PPR league, like you're starting three, and one of them could be a tight end, right? Like in the flex position. So technically, you have five receivers in PPR
I
that.
know when I'm drafting, we're allowed to have 16 players on our roster. I usually only draft 3 receivers because I know that I'm going to find serviceable receivers all year long on the waiver wire. So I don't draft the full amount right off the bat because I always want to go for 5 running backs. Yes, because there just aren't that many that can do a great job. So I also like to handcuff. And in terms of tight ends, they're a priority because there just aren't very many, but there's just so many receivers all year long. I like to save those spots.
Yeah, it's interesting to see when we start doing mock drafts, when the receivers kind of come off the block. That, by the way, we should try and organize something soon here where we can kind of get, 8 other people, and then we can at least draft something up so we can test our theories out prior to
Yeah.
August coming through.
Once the rookie draft happens, then we
Mhm.
then it'll be a little bit of a clearer picture.
Right, definitely.
And so what we talked about taking each of us taking a division and looking at it, and instead of us both talking about the same one. So you picked, what was it, the NFC North, right?
Yeah, I just figured I'd go with the division I spend more time watching.
Yeah.
And so, looking at the Detroit Lions and who they let go, and more importantly, who they brought in. So obviously, the big ticket a week prior to the Super Bowl was the Goff acquisition, and he was pretty Hollywood the other day, showing up with his Beverly Hills Cop leather jacket. It's going to be interesting to see what that guy could do because there's so many pieces that have left and that actually have come in too. So Tyrell Williams, a receiver that played for Gruden and Raiders, hasn't really done much, but he's quicker than Beans. So it'll be interesting to see. Golf does have an arm, so seeing if that guy can actually then produce. And then they reached out and got Perryman, like the rookie suitcase player of the league. He's been on 5 teams. Going back to Detroit. So interesting to see how those two guys are going to come up and lastly, they picked up a stud running back out of Green Bay, Jamal Williams. I was talking about the North, just like the guys that can run through tackles. That guy had proved that he can do that. Is he number one? Nope. Swift has that number one job, but really, like as a grinder, if they're going to run 20 times a game, plus having that guy beating up the defense is going to be great. So
will he beat them up more than Peterson? I mean, where's Peterson going to be? What are they going to do with him, do you think?
I don't know whether I haven't heard anything about it. He might go. I don't know. Maybe Patriots.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Yeah, but anyway, so the Lions are looking thin at receiver. They did lose Galladay to the Empire City for a ridiculous amount of money, but that's fine. I think they lost Prater, who I forget who he signed with, maybe Arizona. And so they picked up another guy from Kansas City. Not Kansas City, sorry, from Cincinnati, Bullock.
Yeah, Randy Bullock.
Don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
and what about some of
Detroit's
those other? What about some of those other teams in that division? Have you been noticing much happening with the Bears?
The big thing is that the Bears got Dalton, from Dallas for $10 million. So that's interesting. And then they locked in Robinson as a franchise tag. So Dalton's a little old. Robinson always is a ball hog. So let's see where they go with that. I don't know too much about. I think they had trouble with their cap, and it's the same thing with like the Packers and Vikings. Everyone in the North Division seems to have either. The interesting thing about the Packers, though, is that they've kept everybody that they wanted to keep. So, they signed Aaron Jones and they got Lazard. So Aaron Rodgers still has the same threats as last year. That Tonyan guy.
Tonyan, the tight end.
Yeah, the tight end. Fifth in the league last year for touchdown receptions. Not many yards, but touchdowns.
Yeah.
They still score points. So, next year I still think Packers would be a contender. If Rodgers is still playing the same way that he's doing, and all the guys can play in the same way. And there's nothing out of Vikings camp is paying ridiculous amount of money for Cousins. They're just kind of like losing players as they go.
Well, they've got a full offense. I mean, they really don't. I mean, maybe they could beef up their O-line a little bit, maybe, but they have got weapons galore on that team.
Oh yeah, they have rookie sensation Justin Jefferson, right? They have
Thielen.
Thielen. He was on my fantasy team last year. They got Cook, back up by Madison.
Yeah,
that's like So
their tight end is a good goal line threat too.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name's Irv Smith. Is that right? He
Ivy Smith or something like that. Yeah,
I think it's Irv Smith. So he I think I remember watching him catch a couple of touchdowns against the Bears last year. They've got a great defense, but so they really don't have a lot of holes at the skill positions in Minnesota, but their defense was atrocious. So I'm sure in the draft that they're going to start by going for an edge rusher. They've got to beef up their D. Because, I mean, Zimmer's a defensive coach, and his defense was just embarrassing last year.
Yeah, so the NFC, and Detroit really shaking things up and moving some key players out of the lineup in a rebuilding year. All the key players not all the key players, but, if you got a good draft pick, get Adams, right, for a wide receiver, pick up Jones for a running back, right? Get Cook if you have him. If they get Jefferson, all these players are just going to still contribute to that division and be point makers, especially Thielen too. If you can get him at your number 2 wide receiver, he's a great pickup every year. So yeah, interesting division. See how it goes, but all in all, I don't think much has changed into fantasy points. Going into next year. Like I wouldn't put any money, or not put any money, but just waste anything under 5th round on Detroit. But I would definitely go 5th round and higher for all the other teams like Robertson, right? Green Bay players, Viking players.
Yeah, so we pretty much agree that Green Bay is going to take that division again next year. Do you think Minnesota or Chicago can push and come close to knocking them off, or you figure it's Green Bay again?
I think it's Green Bay again. It all depends on health, right? That's how it goes. So you got to make sure everyone's healthy, right? And you don't
Yeah,
want anyone to go injured. But
we
yeah,
got to
probably.
see how Aaron Rodgers plays as a married man.
Yeah, but they have love. They have love sitting behind him. So when
Oh,
is he gonna get his turn? Right. So
no time soon. I
right,
don't even. I'd be surprised if he ever even really plays for them very much at all.
right.
I don't see Rodgers slowing down at all for the next 5 years. So
Yeah, but how long did Rodgers sit behind Favre? 3 years.
yeah, 3 4 years. So I
Right.
mean that's a long way off.
Hmm.
I can't imagine him doing anything for them, and hopefully they'll draft some help for Rodgers in this draft this year instead of trying to draft somebody to take his job again.
Yeah. They do need help in defense. The defense was Green Bay. We're talking about the defense was just okay to keep them in the game, like winning the game.
Yeah,
But definitely there needs to be some linebackers. I think they need to pick up and some edge rushers. So let's see what they do in the offseason with defense. But
yeah. So same
Minnesota,
story as Minnesota. They're kind
yeah,
of the same team in a weird way.
yeah, and you can pick up defensive guys if they're good.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, I agreed to cover the AFC East because the Patriots are a team that I've followed for a long time, and there was a lot happening in that division this week. Start
We're gonna.
off with the Bills. They let go of big little John Brown, and they picked up Emmanuel Sanders, replaced him with him. Good
Scary.
player.
Yeah, that's scary. He can pick up points if you can get him at round 8, round 7. He could pick up some yards for you.
Yeah, he'll
And
be the number 2 there because they've
mhm,
got Diggs, and he's the clear number 1, but he needs some help, and Sanders could be that guy. I mean, he's at this point in his career, he is a number 2 receiver, and a good one. And they've got Beasley there to draw some attention. So yeah, he could be a good addition to the team. I'm not so excited about what he'll be as a fantasy receiver, but I think it'll help their offense run a little smoother. And they picked up Hollister as well. Jacob Hollister apparently was the quarterback's roommate in college or something. So they're buds from way back. And I'm not so excited fantasy wise. I don't think he'll be a top 10 guy or anything like that, but it does help make their offense look a little more evened out. Having those two guys come in.
yeah,
Singletary's the main guy. He's a really talented guy. They don't really let him run between the tackles very much or near the goal line. So he's kind of good in the middle of the field. And then once they get down to the goal line, they seem to find other ways to get the ball in the end zone. And Josh Allen likes to run it in himself quite a bit.
Josh Allen's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if I can get Josh Allen, I'll go for Diggs. So if I was going to play that 1-2 spot, which I'm thinking of,
mhm.
That combination to me sounds very intriguing to go into my draft with.
Yeah, if you can get them both, that'd be great.
Yeah, pick up Diggs early. Depends where you're picking though. So
Yeah.
and then maybe waiver wire have Sanders there. It's good team. They're going to be very competitive, I think.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And the Dolphins stole Will Fuller away from the Texans. So they've got a field stretcher and a deep threat. I don't really know if Tua throws the deep ball very well. I haven't really seen much of that from him. So, I mean, Fuller he's speedy. He's fast.
He is. He is. He's definitely a fantasy herder.
Dolphins haven't really done that much, so I'm thinking they're probably going to. I guess they could.
They got
There's still a few running backs they could sign, but they'll probably draft one. I'm thinking.
Gesicki,
Yeah, they have him
the
as a
tight
tight
end.
end. Yeah,
Right, and he's. I had him on my bench last year. He definitely a player to think of even being a tight end number one spot too. So if
he's
Tua can't pass,
sort of a 6 touchdown a year guy. Nothing too crazy.
yeah, it depends how you build your roster though. If you don't really, not really wanting a tight end to get you points, like if you can't get, one of the top ones, he definitely is somebody that can contribute in a game. And if Tua can't throw downfield much, the tight end's always closest.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they haven't moved, maybe they'll do some moves a little bit later. They kind of had that weird rebuild. They got a lot of draft picks, right? So it'll be interesting to see what their draft picks are this year.
Yeah. So next, I was looking at the Jets. The Jets, yeah. So they signed Tyler Kroft. They stole the tight end away from Buffalo. He's okay. They got Keenan Cole from Jacksonville as a wide receiver, and then they got Corey Davis from Tennessee. Those are the 3 biggest guys that I saw them signing that are fantasy relevant. But again, until the draft comes, we don't know if Sam Darnold is going to be their quarterback, or if they're going to have a rookie quarterback, or if they're going to try to trade for somebody else who's out there. There's still the Deshaun Watson situation, which is getting worse by the day because he's got all these charges against him now. And Russell Wilson, I don't think he'd agree to go to the Jets, and he's got the no trade clause. So, yeah, I mean, I basically don't care about any of these guys. We'll have to see if they draft a running back and what kind of offense. I know they're going to employ the 49ers offense because they brought in LaFleur's brother, who comes from the Shanahan system. But I mean, I don't know, who's your quarterback? Just fantasy wise, I don't know about that team. I'd have to see it.
They have Crowder, who's can catch the ball. So
yeah,
but he's not your number one. He's not.
And Mims. So they have good players there. But would you really spend a draft pick on any of those guys on your draft day?
No, not to like what pick are you thinking?
Yeah. I'm thinking waiver wire. That's what I'm thinking. And so then that brings us to the Patriots, who surprised everybody this week. Normally, they're the cheapest organization when it comes to free agency. They don't pay players. They're notorious for that. And they're in tremendous need of good quarterback play since they let Brady walk out of the building. And they re-signed Cam Newton.
For 1 year.
For 1 year. So not a big commitment and not a lot of money. Thinking they are going to draft a quarterback. I'm pretty sure. And that doesn't mean that the guy will play right out of the gate. Probably sit him for a year behind Newton if Newton stays healthy. Or if the season becomes a write-off, whoever they draft probably will start to take over halfway through the year once their playoff hopes have been dashed. But they seem to be building a pretty decent team other than at quarterback. They've got lots of decent running backs. But on defense, they picked up Judon, the pass rusher, stolen from Baltimore. And they've signed a couple of offensive linemen, including Trent Brown, the behemoth offensive tackle that helped them win the Super Bowl. They brought him in. They lent him to the Raiders for 1 year, and he didn't play but half the time. And now they brought him back for less money. So that was a good move. And then they went crazy with signing 4 probable starters on one day. So they've got Nelson Aguilar, And Kendrick Bourne, Aguilar coming from the Raiders, Kendrick Bourne coming from the Niners. And they're two okay, kind of just serviceable, decent wideouts. Nothing outstanding there. Fantasy wise, again, probably waiver wire guys. But they got the two best tight ends on the market.
Yeah, they picked up Hunter from San Diego, LA,
Hunter Henry.
and Geno Smith.
Yeah. So Jonnu Smith, I had on my team last year. Got him for $1, scored 9 touchdowns. And every time I started him, he got me 0. So I had a better tight end on my team, which was Andrews on Baltimore, but Andrews had some COVID problems. And so I was, hey, no problem. I've got this top tight end who was actually ranked higher than Andrews most of the time, including every time that I started him. And he got me 0. So Hunter Henry is a good pass catching tight end. Jonnu Smith's sort of a guy who can block and he can run and he can catch. But Hunter Henry's sort of that pass catching tight end. He's a decent blocker, but he's not outstanding. What you're looking at is a team with good tight ends that can block for the most part, and then Cam Newton throwing, to a couple of okay wideouts. So mostly they're going to be a running team, I guess. They've got a good solid line with the 2 tight ends, so that implies a run package more often than not.
Yeah,
and a little play action and a ball here or there to Hunter Henry. And then once everybody's looking at that, they'll throw it to Jonnu Smith in the end zone. So basically those 2 tight ends cancel each other out, and you ever know week to week which one of them you might want to start.
right.
It's probably going to change depending on who their opponent is and who gets more balls.
Yep.
And I think fantasy wise, it'll be very inconsistent and it'll drive you nuts. All of those guys. So
pick Harris. So go with the running back, and then hopefully you're either sitting him on your bench,
and
stealing points from your opponents, or just.
And Sony Michel is a good running back too. So basically fantasy wise, probably none of those guys want to be on your team next year. Maybe it'll prove to be different once we get the season going and there's a clear number 1 target on that team. But I think the thing about Belichick is that he likes the Swiss Army knife approach. He likes guys to be able to block 1 week, catch the next week, run the next week. If you're a defense, you don't know which receiver, which tight end to focus on, because nobody's going to really be getting the ball all the time. And, 1 week you might have a great performance from a running back like Rex Burkhead, and then the next week he'll get you 0. And so fantasy wise, I'm not excited about any of those guys, actually.
Top 3 out of AFC East, fantasy wise. Doesn't matter where you're picking them, picking number 1 or picking number 16th spot.
Stephan Diggs is the player that I would want in the whole division.
Okay, and then number 2, some guy from the Jets.
I don't know. I mean, I guess Will Fuller would be he'll probably have some deep shot touchdowns where he can get you 14 points on 1 play.
Yeah.
So he'll probably do that. It seemed like he did it once a game with Deshaun Watson. So Tua is not Deshaun Watson. So probably 8 to 10 times he'll do that. So he'd be the next guy that I'd want. And then, I don't know, maybe the Jets will draft a running back like Etienne or somebody like that and give him the ball a lot, because in that 49er system, that's what they like to do, run, play action. And then, Patriots week to week, who knows? I mean, maybe one of the tight ends will get you 6 or 7 touchdowns. But I wouldn't pay a lot for him in an auction league, and I wouldn't choose him with a high draft choice, any of those guys. The running back, Harris, I believe, is a decent player. He seems to be able to run and catch. but Cam Newton is the guy who likes to run and score touchdowns down by the goal line, similar to Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And he had all of 8 touchdown passes last year. So most of his scores are on the ground. And yeah, I'm excited to see if New England drafts a QB. That's the thing that I'm excited about, because maybe long term a fantasy player will come out of that position on that team with that coordinator. But yeah, basically, I'm not excited about anybody but Diggs right now.
Josh Allen.
I'm very interested in the Patriots defense for fantasy next year. I think they're going to be really good because a lot of the guys that skipped this year are coming back. They beefed up the D-line, which was their weak spot on their defense. And Kyle Van Noy is coming back.
Yes,
from
the
Detroit.
Detroit defect.
Yeah. Yeah, back to his old stomping grounds with his old coach. Even Patricia's back. So
picking up equipment, I hope.
Well, he can do what Belichick tells him to.
Okay, pick up his son's equipment. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he can listen to Steve Belichick calling the plays.
Sorry, you left for 3 years. Junior took your spot.
Yeah,
Here, wear a red hat again.
you can
Backwards.
start all over. But I really loved that clown shirt that he had with Goodell's face, with the big clown nose.
Yeah.
That was the best when he got off the plane after the Super Bowl with the big clowny Goodell shirt. I'll love him forever just for that.
Awesome.
So any other kind of notes from around the league that struck your attention? Deshaun Watson?
No, let's see. Like, whatever. Deshaun Watson, it's going to play out. Who knows what's going to happen?
Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson's staying in
Yeah.
the Northwest. He's not moving. You just don't lose a top 3 quarterback because you don't want to. But it's interesting when it comes down to money and also maturity. And I don't know if Russell has the maturity to foresee that the money is not always the most important. So if he wants a team, contend and stay in Seattle and, be that franchise guy, I think taking a little bit of a pay cut to build the offensive line around you or the defense again, to try and get yourself back into the Super Bowl. I think that would be a smart move for him. But, not everybody is thinking that way. Maybe he's thinking about his grandkids still being able to, not work. I don't know. When you're making millions and millions and millions of dollars and you have endorsements, there has to be some time that when you have maturity and you're just like, well, I don't need that Maserati in green and yellow. And I hope he stays in Seattle. I think that's where he should be. And like I said, I hope, people learn from what Brady does and kind of, take a little bit of a pay cut. Don't have to give away the bank, and build the assets around you and then go and contend.
But will he give out his cell phone number on Twitter though? Like Tom Terrific did.
I don't know.
I couldn't believe that. I saw he published his cell phone number and said if you text him, he'll reply or he'll see it. But
That's cool.
He asked people not to text him on game day.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think this experiment's going to last.
Well, it's not like you have your cell phone in your jockstrap.
No, but I mean, your cell phone goes off. You look at it, and it's some jackass saying, "You suck." You paid the refs.
Oh, to be a celebrity.
I just can't believe the guy published his cell phone number.
He's probably got rid of it. He probably gave it to an assistant. He probably pays a guy $30,000 a year to answer his text messages. A lot of companies do that, by the way. Their Twitter handle is not really their Twitter handle. It's just some marketing firm behind them. That's their Twitter handle. So
Yeah.
Who knows? If it's a 5-5-5 number 2, you should be very wary of those.
What do you think about Fitzpatrick? Ryan Fitzpatrick
I
signing
love
with Washington.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
yeah.
awesome.
That's going to be pretty great for Terry McLaurin because he loves to target his number one receiver above everybody else.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. I think Fitzpatrick is one of the most entertaining football players out there, and he always produces. I never picked him up in fantasy because you just don't even know if he's going to start. Like he'll get cut on like the Friday. He'll do great for 3 weeks and then he'll get cut. And you'll be like, what? But yeah, Washington will be a very, very interesting team this year. A lot of. I'm looking forward when we talk about the
draft.
Yeah, the AFC. The NFC East.
Oh, the NFC East. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you want them?
No. You take them.
No, I don't mind. You can.
I'll take the
want?
AFC South. I'll take the AFC South. So next time we'll talk.
Okay.
I'll talk about the AFC South. Who do you want?
Yeah, I can take the NFC East. Sure. I think Washington would be fun to discuss for a little bit. I don't like talking about the Cowboys.
And then you got your Dallas. You got your beloved Dallas and your Dak.
Yeah, well, he just did the thing you were talking about. He just broke the bank in Dallas.
Right.
So it's all on him. It's all on him to win.
Yeah, but we all know defense. There has to be a defense.
Well, they had a really bad defense last year.
That's what I'm saying. There needs to be a defense. So it doesn't matter what you do in offense. If you can't stop the other team, people are just going to cherry pick you away, just drop bombs right behind you.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well, I guess we'll wrap it up for this time, and we'll talk again probably next week with our designated divisions that we agreed on. And that was fun. It's good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you too.
I can't wait for the draft.
Week. Yeah, I can't wait to next week too. Can't wait to see what happens this week. I'm sure there's going to be some more headlines breaking about different things happening in the league. Interesting. Very interesting times right now. And when's the draft?
It's in April. I know that. I think it's towards the end of April.
You're right. Yes.
So we've got a bit of time.
Cool. All right. Chat soon.
Good chat. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Football Game Plan.